Hi guys and girls, welcome back to Geekism here on Planet Coaster. My name's John, so you join me as the sun rises on another beautiful day in Coaster Planet. And we look on this little Mexcellente building. This is a little pirate themed building for one shop, and this is going to be our basic building tutorial. So we're going to replicate this near enough, not necessarily identically, but we're going to try and replicate this. And I won't lie, it's a bit of a hot mess. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different things. It's a little messy, but I've tried to build something that kind of shows you lots of different sort of techniques that you're going to be needing to use in the building mode, and also a way of me being able to sort of roughly go through my process when it comes to building as well. Now, I'm no expert builder, you know, I'm not Silverette, but I've had a lot of people ask me about some of the techniques I use, so this is going to be sort of a twofold tutorial really. One, actual sort of hard techniques, sort of things to press and what to click, but then also a little bit of theory about what's actually going on here as well. Okay, this is going to be part one. This is going to be a basics tutorial. Like I said, we're going to build this, and we're going to be doing a second part as well. It's going to go into a little bit more depth and some sort of like workarounds for different things and things like that. So we're going to start off. We're going to build the actual shop. So for the most part, the buildings you're going to be building are going to be wrapped around something, a shop or something. Obviously, you can build things just for scenery. But for the most part, they're going to be either shops or toilets or coaster stations or things like that. So we're going to start off with a shop. So we'll go here into custom, and you'll have them all lined up like this. All of the shops in the game look like this. They're basically a brick box with a different colour brick for each one and a shutter on the front. I'm pressing Z here, or Z. I've had a few people pull me up asking me what the Z key is. That's just how we Brits say the letter Z. So Z or Z, which either way, it's the last letter of the alphabet, and you can press that, and that will always turn 90 degrees. Anything pretty much in the game, if you tap this, you'll get a 90-degree rotation on it. If you hold it down, you'll get a ring like this, and you can move your mouse to have more of a subtle turn, and you can also turn angle snap on and off. So if we turn it on and off, we'll then get, with the same holding down the key there, we get the angle snap. So here you can see in the corner we have a 45-degree angle snap, and you can see there we can then do 45 degrees, and this can be changed to 15, 30 or 45. 15 is quite useful to give you a bit of overall control, but just by tapping space you can turn that on and off, and you'll be able to tap it however you want. But with it on or off, tapping it will always give you 90 degrees from wherever it was. So anyway, let's just place it down in the front of us like so, and then we're down. Now you'll notice we've got a grid being placed on the ground in front of us, and the grid is the same width as the part that we've just placed down. This box is 4 meters by 4 meters by 4 meters, and that is pretty much the standard building grid in the game. Anything in the menu here that has a grid behind it, you can see the patterns there have a grid, means that they will place a grid down when they're the first item down, or if there's already a grid down, they will have to stick to that grid. So let's have a Mexcellente there, and we can also open an ATM, and you'll see now, because we have that Mexcellente, this ATM is now stuck to this grid. If we can rotate it, we can drag it around, but it's stuck to that grid. In some cases you can actually change the grid size, but it's literally down from 4 meters to half that, 2 meters, so you can get a little bit more control. But like I say, once you've built one item on a grid, everything else within that building, and you can tell you're within a building here, because you've got here, look, we're in building 8163, where that number comes from I have no idea. I assume that the developers built 8161 buildings in this level before they released the game, and I've built one over there, and this is 63. Anyway, I digress. So when you're within a building, anything with this grid has to stick to the grid that was generated from the first item down. Now, we're not going to go into buildings using multiple grids in this one. That's a little bit more advanced, but we are going to be covering that later on. But for now, we're now stuck to this grid. So let's go into building mode. A lot of the things within custom building mode are grid pieces. For instance, this curved column base is a grid piece, so you can see it snapping, but then stuff without the grid behind them doesn't have it, and they're the ones that you can get full control over and do whatever you want with. So we'll start off with the walls. Going to walls, there's loads and loads of pieces. You can see here there's all different types of wall basically, and corners and sort of slopes to go into roofs and loads of different bits. There's different ways you can break these up, and we're going to go through those quickly before we carry on. First of all, you can search for something specific. So if I wanted a 2 meter slope, I could type in 2 meter slope, and that gives us all the 2 meter slopes of every different material. 2 meter slopes are what you use to go under roofs to sort of finish off the wall areas. So there we go, we got 2 meter slope. Or say I wanted everything that was part of the stucco range, which is actually what we're going to be using in a moment. If we type in stucco, we got all the different stucco pieces. We get sort of overhangs like that, under pieces, I don't really know a lot of the technical names, parapets, and then also just regular walls as well. And we get rid of that. So you've got a basic search for anything in particular. You can change how they are shown, either by alphabetized their type. So there you go, you get all the sort of slopes together, and then also their price, height or low. But that's very not used very much, to be honest, because the prices are arbitrary and they seem to be pulled out of their bum a lot of the times. You'll find that pieces of the same shape but made of a different material, different prices, and yeah, I wouldn't recommend that unless you're really stuck for cash in a campaign mode or a career mode or something. You need some cheap scenery or something, I don't know. So anyway, we'll go back to name because that's how I always use it. The final way is you can break them up into groups using filters. So first of all, you have your scenery themes, which are your 5 main themes that are currently in the game: Pirate, Fairy Tale, Planet Coaster, which is sort of like the generic modern theme, Western and sci-fi. You've then got, you can actually break up to the material, which is what we're going to be using in a moment. So these are what each piece is made out of. So rather than having to type in stucco, you can come up here and just select stucco. It shows you all the stucco pieces. Then we also have building set. Now building set, from what I can tell, basically is the wall pieces, roof pieces, columns and things like that that match the scenery theme. So scenery items are the more interesting items: crates, statues, animatronics, all those things. They're class of scenery, and they're categorized by the scenery theme. But then building set, windows, doors and things like that, are classed to a building set that matches. So here, for instance, if we wanted pirates, if we select pirates, you'll find that if we take stucco off, you won't get any wall pieces that are classed as pirate walls. But then if you come down to the building set and select maybe rustic and old west, you'll find there you've got brick pieces, lime plaster, all stuff that you could use within pirates. And that's been done purposefully so that you don't feel like you're limited too much by certain themes when you're building buildings. So we'll find them out. Finally, the last category is the property. You won't be using these much in the building tab. These come more for scenery, but if you click those, you can either have items that are triggerable, in that they can be affected by a trigger when you're building things like dark rides or just sort of interesting aspects of coasters. If you want to know more on triggers, I'll put a link in the top corner there to my trigger tutorial that goes over all of those features in much more depth. And then also editable text, which is used for signs. Basically, we go to MISC signs here. These are all the signs where you can change the text on them. Anyway, so that's how you find things you're looking for. We're going to go back into walls again, and then here we'll select stucco, and we're going to select the 4 meter stucco wall. So like I say, the building is pretty much attached to a 4 meter grid. Here we've got a 2 meter grid, so you can see we can actually sort of offset the wall slightly, but we're going to build just a basic sort of 2x2 box around this wall, around this Mexilente even. Now you notice you can build it close or a little bit further away, and I'm just going to go back to 4 meters to show you. Basically how it works is you can have the pieces are always on the inside of a box, but you can then move them to be on the inside of the next box, technically, which is on the outside of the previous box. You see, they can sort of go in between the two. This gives you a lot more options. For the most part, I like to build inside the box. So for instance, I'll put this wall here and here, because that gives me a lot of options in the future if I want to do more detail on the outside of the box to build up the wall, something like that. Okay, right click there to get rid of pieces if we need to. But we're going to carry on with these. Now I've deselected this piece now, so rather than having to go back through here and find which one it was, obviously it's that one, but if there was a larger selection it would be more tricky. So instead I'm going to select a piece, and if you see up here you've got options. You can duplicate it by using Control and D. So we'll press Control D. You can also click that button if you want to, and that gives you the piece back. Now for the most part you'll then be able to carry on using the piece. Sometimes this doesn't work. I haven't quite figured out what the rule is there, but I think for wall pieces for the most part you'll be able to carry on like that. Each of the wall pieces will also have a piece that looks like this, and it's basically called shop front, and it perfectly fits all of the stores. If you want to build this for something like a toilet or a first aid box, if you go into arches, there are suitable arches you can use there for that purpose. But for this one, because we've got a shop, we're going to be using the storefront. Here we're building a sloped roof, as you can see there. Just realised it's going dark, so we'll just set the light to a decent colour there. That's great. So here we're using a slope roof, so we actually need to build the walls up a little using these extra little bits. So here we're going to add our 2 meter slope. We're going to press Z to rotate it and drag it up. When you're building up, we're dragging with shift, by the way, sorry, holding down shift to move up and down. And this is known as the grid height, and that actually has quite a lot of change in it. You can go right down to 0 and you can pretty much change it on any point, or you can go right up to 4, which is handy if you're building large sections of wall. But we don't, we want 2 for this. So we're going to build one there, and then we also need our 2 meter wall to go at the back there, like so. And that builds. Now you'll see there's a bit of a kink here where the walls try and meet, but for the most part the roofs will cover that up nicely. So we also have a little side building here as well. So we'll go back to our 4 meter wall for a second and knock the grid size down to 2. Because we're going to offset a little here and build just a side of a building just like so. I think it's actually a little bit lower, so that's fine, we'll get rid of that. It doesn't have to be exact, but this actually gives me a good reason to show you this. So walls all come in 1 meter, 2 meter or 4 meter, nothing in between. So say you wanted a 3 meter high wall, you would have to use a 2 meter and a 1 meter on top of it, like so. That would give you 3 meters high, which I think is actually what we've done here. So we'll add up another 2 there, drag it down, and there. The other thing you could always do is just grab the 4 meter and just knock it into the ground a little. That works just as well. Either way is perfectly acceptable, I think, pretty much. I don't think it makes much difference regarding processing. And then finally we want our little, we'll do a 1 meter slope here. Again, I think it's very slightly different, but it doesn't really matter too much. Oh, I missed there. I'm pressing right click to get rid of things. We'll try that again, bring the slope round. Like so. And then we're going to move on to roofs. So roofs are down here. Roofs are split into a few different sections. You have pitched roofs, which is basically roofs with a slope. We need to get rid of our stucco filter there to show them. So any roofs with slopes, so either domes, cones, or just sort of sloped roofs, come under here. We have flat roofs. They do what they say. Now, although these class as roofs, a lot of these work really well for floors as well, so bear that in mind if you're looking for floor pieces. Roof trims are sort of the edging pieces for various roofs, and decorations are things like balustrades and chimneys and sort of extra little awnings, and there you go, even a weather vane. So we need pitched roofs. There is a ridge tile roof that goes really well with the stucco, and we want the slope, which is just here. Now, I think a lot of these actually have varying slopes, but this one doesn't seem to, so we may have to change that wall there, I think. We're going to press Z to rotate it, and then we're going to place it underneath where we want it to be, and then Shift to drag it up into place, and we'll click, and again we'll click, and here we actually need to change these walls a little, so we'll just quickly get rid of those, and we can actually duplicate this one, because that's the one we want, rotate it with Z, and then drag it down, and again rotate it with Z and drag it up. There we go, and then we'll just add that roof on to there like so. There you go, so that's pretty much your roof. It's kind of done if you're happy with it, but I think you can actually do quite a bit more with roofs to make them look a little bit more interesting. If you see the difference between this roof here and this roof here, has a lot more going about it, and we're using the roof trims there to get those sort of extra little bits. Most of the roofs have a set of trims for them as well. So these are called ridge tiles. So if we search for ridge tile, we'll get the ones we want to see. So the roof edge is a piece that you have to rotate and drag. And now you may find that you have to knock down the grid height here to get it as accurate as you want to. But here you can drag it on a little down a bit further. There we go, and we click that into place. Not too sure why they're rotating, they don't normally do that. Like so, there we go, it just gives you that little sort of hangover, and I would do that on this side as well. And you can also do it here. I don't know how accurate this is for sort of architecture reasons, but I think it looks pretty good, like so. And then finally you can use a trim piece on the top of them. We want to make the height a little smaller there, so it just sits above them, like so, and like so. So your roof is nicely in place, and that pretty much finishes the building for you. We're now going to move into scenery and a few other options. One of the biggest sort of problems I find with building is that stuff is kind of spread into different areas that you wouldn't expect it to be in. For instance, there is under building, we'll open these up, there is a decorations section, but then obviously these are really just pieces of scenery, and in scenery there are also decorations. The way I try and remember it is that building decorations are things that should really attach to a wall. So these are things like wall lights or mounted pictures or things like that. And then in scenery, decorations are things that don't necessarily go on walls, but obviously one of the joys of this game is you can change them and adjust them and use them however you wish, and that's part of the fun of it, really. So before we get into that, we're going to go and do some doors and windows very quickly. Again, you can search for specific sort of scenery themes to get here, but you'll find that they won't oh, there's no sci-fi doors. That's interesting, isn't it? So we actually want pirate here. There's no pirate doors either. They must just class as building sets then. Let's have a look. If we go rustic, yeah, we start getting some of the ones there, and Old West we get some other ones we can use as well, and that's fine. But the ones we're going to use are, one of them is actually a fairy tale door, but I think it works quite well because the stucco ones are a little big, to be honest. So just scroll to find which one it was. I can't remember which one it was now. Has it got some sort of little diamond on the front? Is that one? Yes, there we go. So it's actually a fairy tale door, but I think it looks quite nicely. So now, here's an interesting point. We are no longer editing within this building. You can tell that because there isn't a mention of a building name up in the top right corner. You'll see here it's got add to building, and if we click that now, it'll add to the building, open the building up, and we can carry on as we were. But we may want to do something like this, where we want to build a rock. And you'll find that we're not able to build the rock onto the building unless it's actually touching. There are a couple of ways around this. First of all, you can use advanced move, so once the rock is touching the building, you can press X and then drag it out and click it in place. And then once it's wherever you want it to be, if you select the building and the rock by using the multi-select tool in the bottom corner there is now an option to add standalone scenery to selected building. If you click that, then now we have a building, and inside that building is the rock. We click here, edit building, or we can press the R key to get back in. Anyway, we don't want a rock there. Last thing we want to do is some doors and windows. So yeah, anyway, sorry, that's a slight digress there. I wasn't going to mention that till later, but it came up because of the door, so we'll stick it in. So now we're in the building, we're able to place the door here. F key. What the F key does is place the door perfectly in the middle of a wall. This happens to any piece that's meant to go on a wall. So if you press the F key, it places it perfectly in the middle of that square as if it was on a 4x4 grid. So you'll see here it's a little higher. What we can do is, whilst holding down F, we can press X. We can then let go of both keys, and now we know that's perfectly in the middle, apart from the fact it's too high. But because we've pressed X, we can now use the arrow here to drag it down into place, like so. We get a nice loud thump as it does so. Last thing we're going to do is place a few windows. We've gone for the nice sort of small decorative stucco windows. Here they are, and again we'll press F to see where they end up. It's not really ideal, so we'll just have to sort of do these by eye. But here's how we get things lined up. First of all, wherever we want the first one, we can get ready to place it, but before we place it, we're going to press X, and that gives us the advanced move. Clicking anywhere now, we'll place one of those, and then what we can do is actually drag it across. We can press X again, which gives us rotation, and we can rotate it around. Whilst we're rotating, if we press space key, we get rotating back on again, which we want. So we're going to press X again and bring it down, and now we know that that is perfectly height-wise exactly the same as the other window, and now it's just a case of lining it up on that wall. It actually looks pretty good where it is there. And we'll place that as well. That's how you get sort of windows lined up, especially when they're on different surfaces like so. So there you go, you've got a really basic building there. Hopefully that's gone through some of the tips. In part 2 we're going to add all the rest of the detail using some scenery and a few other sort of extra sort of key presses and things to make life a little bit easier. But there we go, you've got your basic shop set up there. Thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoy it. There is a link in the top there for part 2. I'm going to release these both at the same time. If you have liked it, please give us a like, it really does help out the channel. And also you should see a nice big circle on the screen there that you can click and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.